Good morning, Rose.
Good morning, Mark.
Thank you for joining me again in our virtual discussion coffee space. I hope you've got something to sip on there.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're going to spend a little time fixing education through classroom disruption. And if any of our colleagues or other folks are listening in on this, and I hope a bunch of them are, let's do some quick introductions. My name is Mark Gura. I'm currently a professor of education at Touro University. I teach graduate students there, and in my long past, I was a public school teacher in New York City for 18 years, much of it in Harlem, also the Lower East Side, South Jamaica. I left the classroom after 18 years to become a curriculum program and professional development specialist, eventually becoming the equivalent of the head of STEM education for New York City, which is ironic because I started out as a visual art teacher. So let's give the 90-second or less version of Dr. Rose, who also started out as a teacher in New York City.
Okay, so I'm a teacher in New York City from Brooklyn, but I've been to all five boroughs. I started out theoretically, actually, I started as a librarian, but was too noisy for that. I became a teacher of all grades. I have multiple licenses. I've taught all grades, supposedly English language arts, which is my area of pursuit of higher degrees, but I'm also was a coach, a curriculum writer, which is now in danger of extinction, but hopefully will revive that, a curriculum coordinator, a person who worked in districts, a grant writer who funded her own programs and eventually funded Department of Education, national
All right.
corporate
You don't need,
foundation
you don't
programs.
know need the full CV. In
Okay.
essence,
But
you
right now, currently, I'm working on America 250, less than a year away, for the Pennsylvania Council for Social Studies, and working avidly on citizenship and changing transformation, which is today's theme. Transformational change, is it not?
it is. And let me just add in brief that we've been all over the place, nationally, internationally. Our hearts and souls and brains are firmly rooted, and our butts firmly rooted in the inner city classroom, and by extension, uh, smaller districts, and yeah, we're basically teachers. So let me share the notes for today. There we go. Okay. And so here we are, Rose. Today is the 12th of July, 2025, and this is the little title we've given our ongoing conversations and classroom disruption, fixing education. And here's a little tag item. We've discussed this idea many times. I thought I'd throw this into the notes. Of course, a lot of folks see that what needs to be done in education is major change. We see it as coming from the bottom up, generated by teachers. That's the transformation. If you're a superintendent watching this, welcome. Just know that that's the idea we'd like everyone to to wrap their heads around that if any
And
meaningful change is going to come, it's going to come from the classroom on up.
And I want to say that that many of the most successful superintendents started as teachers and all recognize that change from above doesn't mean anything if it's not happening in every classroom with teachers interacting. We forgot to mention the children, the students, Ms. Mark. So change will only happen among teachers and students in the classroom, and successful superintendents know that. So the T in transformation is for teacher change.
I like that. Okay. So, in my graduate class, which is all about transforming education, I mean, I have a particular slant using technology to make this shift happen, but I always start with, so how are we doing? And the answer is never very, very glowing. We need a lot of fixing and transformation to happen. I thought we'd start out with, I don't know, a couple of minutes of discussion of this wonderful woman's new YouTube channel. And she's announcing here in the title of her video, we're not going to watch the video. We're just going to, both of us have seen it and it is moving. And I have mixed feelings about it. But I do want to say, she comes off to me as a great person, a great colleague. She reminds me of Beryl Epton and Celia Swan and Joyce at the last school, women who have put in, this woman, I think, put in 23 years, put in heart and soul for 23 years, sincere, caring, intelligent, well developed in the sense of professional development. And and you know what? I mean, here she is with a video announcing she's quitting and with a lot of explanation. And we're going to go through that for a couple of minutes. Before I let you make a comment or two, Rose, I want to point out that this is one of many such videos. YouTube is filled with teachers who feel they haven't been heard, who found a platform, a video to explain what's wrong and why they're unhappy. And again, I have mixed feelings here. I think she's got some of her reasoning right, but I think because we've been around longer and maybe held loftier positions as well as teachers, we have a little more perspective. So you watched this. What would you like to add before I made a few notes here?
Okay, so I'd like to preface it with some of the same comments you did. I listened, I said she's articulate, she's true, she's authentic. We now see a wonderful list that you've made of the different things that she states, and yes, it is true. It is true. And she felt it. She's saying it. She's reaching out to the world. She's trying to call for change. What I felt, and I'm going to share it, is that quitting, she's quitting on children. Now, you mentioned in the preface, and we keep saying this, both of us have put our lives into Title I, underserved children. That means that those kids don't have a place to quit. They can't quit from the public schools and go elsewhere. Yes, they might get into a lottery for some charter school, but by the way, those have limited places, and many of those are not wonderful. They're foundering or they're trying to find an identity, etc. So the children, if you quit on a Title I school, the children can quit. They're there, and you've left them. Now, you and I may have evolved up the ladder or whatever you want to call it, the system, but we've worked for, you cannot quit, particularly these children they needed her. and they need her. I don't know. I'm sure she's going to be doing something worthwhile in education, but they needed her in the classroom. The classroom teachers needed her. She did mention she mentors, etc. They need her. So quitting and quitting in general, I wasn't raised to be a quitter. My mother's philosophy and a philosophy in teaching is something goes wrong in the classroom. We have a situation. The many teachers get together. We try and figure out how to reach that student, how to deal with this superintendent's curriculum or publisher's curriculum we don't want. We don't quit. So quitting is number one. And particularly if teachers, I did see that viral movement, but if we all go viral, particularly the capable, she's had a history of being capable, caring. And as she said, her classroom became her island and she closed the door and she taught her. But what she needed to do, and I think what teachers who have these justified claims need to do, is to coalesce as a community and to effect change, to come together with change, with some kind of a movement to help the kids, not close your door and just do a wonderful job yourself, but talk to colleagues, coalesce, and there is power in numbers, even in schools, despite the organization chart. There's power in numbers and community and
All right.
parents. And quitting, it
There's
is
stuff
an
to do.
option, but it certainly isn't desirable.
Well, okay. So I, I said I had mixed feelings about this. There's a few other things I want to point out. Some folks listening to us say this might say, well, she's got good reason, and she does have good reason. I mean, she describes 23 years of struggle, pounding her head against the wall. Please watch the video if you really want all of the details. They all sound very real to me. But someone watching us talk about this might say, well, so who are you to weigh in on this? But we were there. I mean, I taught in Harlem and the Lower East Side and South Jamaica, inner city neighborhoods in New York City for
All right.
18 years. Hold on. And so, yeah, we do get it. The other thing I want to say is, to her credit, she describes how when she left, there was a turn in her attitude and behavior in her career. She finally put her foot down and said, I'm not doing that stuff. I'm giving these kids something really worthwhile doing. But of course, by then, I guess she had already made the decision, I don't belong here. One last thing, and then I'll let you respond, and then we'll move on. My my inference here, now remember, I'm someone like you who has worked literally with hundreds of teachers and I've seen their struggles. It sounds to me like she has been efforting during her career to make the official model work. What do I mean by the official model? You graduate some university, you get a teaching certificate, you go into the schools, and you're presented from all sides with this paradigm. You're here to implement a curriculum that we, the powers that be, know is the right curriculum, and we're going to show you the right way to implement it. And here's the school building, here's the classroom, it's all been vetted for you. It's right. It's research, and you and I both understand. No, it's not. It's really half-baked or taint or spoiled, or however you want to put it. It's inadequate. So it sounds to me like most of the frustration is because she's been a good egg, a good cog in the wheel, trying to make that official narrative work, when what you and I really are about is the teacher tweaking this, saucing this, taking little liberties, just as she says, lack of resources. Well, in this ongoing series of conversations we're going to have, Rose. We're going to show folks how to get a lot of stuff free. She talks,
That's
yeah, she talks about overcrowding, but you remember I was invited to visit schools in Japan, and they're much more crowded. Those classrooms are 50, 60 kids, and they're fine because those kids find what they're offered to do as relevant and engaging. So I'm not with her on a couple of these things. She talks about overemphasis on standardized testing, schools turn out underachieving test takers. Now, I'm sure we're 100% with her on that. And the lack of teacher autonomy, yes, but you and I probably, and I'll let you have the last word on this before we move on. Our take on this is, well, but don't let that stop you. Find some autonomy, create some autonomy, sneak some more, whatever you got to do. And we've seen countless teachers pull this off sufficiently to turn things around for themselves and their students. Sorry, go ahead.
okay. All I want to add to what you just said, Mark, is number five. And number five leads us to our theme today. Take Take authority, take action, take charge. Teachers are supposed to be in charge of their classroom. In fact, sad to say, that's the first thing you're judged on. Have you taken charge? Do you have control? Take control. Don't accept. Don't all of these things, and we'll talk about resources, lack of resources. There's a whole donor's choice now beyond that, and we're going to mention at the end loads of free resources, but it all begins with no teacher autonomy, and transformational change is an opportunity to take charge. Step up, don't step down, don't step out, step up.
Like that. So imagine, if you will, a Venn diagram, two overlapping circles. One circle on the left is compliance with the traditional cog in the wheel uh, failing model. And again, this good woman, 23-year veteran, go watch her video. She gives lots of details which resonate positively, truthfully for me with what really does go on. So on one hand is compliant. On the other hand is what I would call open, fireable defiance. But what you and I are really talking about is that overlap in the Venn diagram, which is the sweet spot in between. And maybe next time I'll actually create such a Venn diagram and include it in the notes. So we're talking about transformational change, and lo and behold, we're all about the news, and we like to share in our discussion and notes to support things that we find. And a couple of items, I'm going to be very brief about this, Rose. A couple of items that have dominated the past couple of weeks. About 3 years ago, ISTE, the International Society for Technology and Education, basically an organization that helped me make my own career, wonderful organization. Traditionally has always had its huge 17, 18,000 people live annual conference at the end of June. But ISTE joined with ASCD. What's ASCD, Rose? That's like the blue chip gold.
Association for Supervisors and Curriculum Development.
Yeah, but I guess you agree with me. That's if you're looking for a blue chip gold standard organization to spearhead quality instruction and quality supervision, those two organizations combined And actually, I like that idea because even though I was the head of technology for the New York City Public Schools, I understand that ultimately you can't have technology be this specialized interest area. It is education runs on tech now. And it seems appropriate to me that the big brother or the big sister it, it kind of melded with the newer but wonderful organization ISTE to produce an appropriate powerhouse. Okay, so they had their new combined conference in at the end of June, and also ASCD puts out a publication called Educational Leadership, and the summer edition of that, which is free online. One way or another, I'll get anyone who's listening to this probably below the video a link to that wonderful summer edition, which is all about transformation in schools, transformation in instruction. Okay, I got that out of that's the context, and all students should have. Now, this is from their conference. I believe this is Richard Kulata, the
Yes, it is.
CEO, saying all students should have transformational learning experiences that spark their imagination and prepare them to thrive in life. I think right on, but I hope over the years to come that a clearer map how to get there emerges because I mean, that's the right spirit and the right idea. But I think a lot of folks looking at that will think, yeah, great. How do I do it? And by the way, that's what we're here for, Rose. Any comment you'd like to make to further that idea?
Okay. Well, number one, yes, it's vague, but sometimes vagueness allows for what we're talking about, allows for us in the classroom to take charge, to input. We have the word imagination. We have the word thrive. Imagine and imagination for sure can't be those scripts that we get and our test prep that we get. And forced imagination means you look up, you imagine, not you look down and follow a script. So all of that is positive. And the fact that it's sort of vague means that teachers and students can inform the meaning.
Okay. And so just to massage this a little bit further, I'm asking the question, so what needs to be Of course, that could be a 3-week conversation, but let's see if we can kind of big bullet it. What needs to be transformed, why and how? You want me to start?
You start.
Well, to me, this conversation often looks for an epicenter of actionable correction. To me, it's the curriculum. And I think the curriculum. So the dynamic is the institution of education has convinced itself that we have this appropriate curriculum, which I don't think we're teaching the full complement of what needs to be taught. I think we're still insisting kids learn a lot of extraneous stuff that doesn't need to be taught. The outcome is that the kids find what they're being asked to do to be boring, irrelevant. They tune out, they act out, they absent themselves from school. Um, the educators, many of them, either because they don't see this as clearly as they should, or because they feel powerless, start turning towards devices to force compliance rather than looking for what we're all about, which is how can you turn these kids on? Humans naturally want to learn. How can you tap into that? And you and I have seen thousands of instances of classes of kids who might be really difficult because they're bored and turned. We've seen thousands of instances of them being fired up and they're loving what they're doing in the classroom. So to me, that's how I would summarize in a minute the transformation that needs to happen.
Okay, so I'd like to pick up on what you said. Curriculum is right. That is what, but has to be curriculum with the change agent who has to be actually two, the teacher looking at the goals and looking at the objective skills, but also bringing the teacher's self, the teacher's culture, and the student culture, student consciousness, student ID. Together, those fuse in a Venn diagram with a big intersecting middle sweet spot to be a curriculum that reflects, and we're going to be showing at the end, a curriculum that is teaching the skills, teaching the things that we need to know to be successful communicators and commercial, whatever, in today's world and community members, but also letting us communicate who we are and what we want to do. And any student where you're the change agent, and any teacher where you're the change agent and there's an agency, there's a product, there's something wonderful, inspiring, and he said imaginative and amazing, and it's going to come out of this. Well, that's the why, and that's also the how. So I think, in short, teachers as change agents on the curriculum in combination with other colleagues, other teachers, not just the teacher alone, a community of teachers coalescing with students and student sensibilities, culture, and consciousness.
Okay, I love everything you said. I want to reiterate a little bit. Um, and I'm going to point anyone who's enjoying this conversation with us to the first conversation we had, which was about a month ago. And we labeled that one, give every kid something wonderful, inspiring, and intellectually nourishing to do every day. That's what we, and again, and we'll get to some specifics on activities people can do in just a moment. But this is not hard. You know, the opportunities to make this happen for kids are abundant if you're attuned to the need for it and you're on the lookout. You know, I do want to share one thing with you. So I teach graduate students online like this over Zoom for Turo, and I often show my graduates who are all in service teachers working towards their required masters in New York State. I give them examples of project-based learning and wonderful programs that they can implement in their classrooms. And I show them that it's easy and it's doable and it's standards based. And sometimes I ask them, so are you going to do it? And oftentimes the response is no. You know, that so again, I go back to the idea that some teachers believe firmly that their job is to be an implementer, a cog in the wheel of this machine that's set in motion, And you and I understand, no, that's part of it, but that's not enough. Basically, you've got to be a little bit of a magic maker in the classroom. You've got to make something happen. You can't just rely on what's the district has handed off to you. And that hopefully no one hearing that is being put off, because the other side of it is it's a wonderful thing for you, Miss Teacher. It makes you come alive. It makes you grow. It's the right thing to do, to approach your class kind of as your show, your laboratory, your I don't know, your greenhouse where you're growing happy, inspired, motivated student, and it ain't hard to do. So, uh, we want to talk about some ideas, and these are some videos that we did together. This one I believe, came out of my class. You've been a visitor to my class and spoken to my students in conversation with me. And so one of the approaches, bodies of activity that you love that doesn't cost anything is the soapbox speech. So why don't you describe that a little bit?
Okay. And want to also connect it, this thing. So you hear about this, okay, it's the lead headline of educational leadership. You may or may not be, as a brand new teacher, you may or may not be a reader of educational leadership. You should. You may or may not be aware of the big thing happening at that conference in your classroom, room 127 at school, and maybe now you're on vacation. But it also, they provide, and that's a good thing about them, they provide you with graphics and with explication. So one of their graphics is three concentric circles telling us how to transform. And I'm going to show you that for no money, you could be doing this in your classroom. And whenever I work with teachers, I'm a teacher myself, but when I do workshops, I always say this is something you can take it and do it tomorrow or do it when school starts. So soapbox is something where you get up. Some of you know American history. I hope many of you, but it comes from American history. In the 1900s, there wasn't internet and there wasn't big, sophisticated broadcasting. There was the town square, the blank area, maybe a parking lot, some sort of a square, and there was the soapbox crate. They used to send goods in a crate, a literal crate. And people who had an issue in the town would get up on the crate, ascend the crate, and maybe they'd give them a megaphone, or maybe they'd speak loudly and they'd talk about their concerns, the sewer system, a problem with policing, education, etc. And some people would applaud them, others would disagree. So they'd get up on the crate. Hence comes the idea, the soapbox crate. And there's even a speaker's crate still in London, England, which was from that time period. But today, we don't need to do that. Today, of course, we can record the students, we can video them, they can write it out, and there's a format, a formal format for social studies. So some of you are going to tune out immediately. Well, I'm not a social studies teacher. I don't want to teach social studies. I don't have time. It's not on the curriculum, etc. But this is really one of the things that I want to say is this is not a social studies alone. This could be in anything. And the form of it is soapbox. Mark and I today are on a soapbox about transforming education. Why? Well, we mentioned why we care. The lady who quit at the beginning, she was on a soapbox too. And she got up on it, recorded herself on film saying why she's quitting. And she just gave part one. your passion. Why are you upset about this? Well, lifelong teacher, etc. Why are you upset about it? Number two, so that is nurturing your own idea. Now, when I do this with kids, I say, what concerns you? Well, they're not concerned that much. When before you go to sleep or when you go out in the morning, what are you concerned about? Some of them are afraid to walk. I'm from inner city. They're afraid to walk in so-called safe neighborhoods alone to school because they might be attacked. Some of them want trips. They don't go anywhere. They don't go anywhere with their family either. They want to go somewhere. Some of them are worried about bullying. Some of them can't make friends. Some of them are anxious about their appearance. Some of them are worried that they don't have enough, etc. So that is called, the first step is nurture the students, give them a sense of belonging. So I have them talk about what they're concerned with, identify their passion. Second step, guide them. Guide them. So you don't just say, okay, talk about your fears. I'm afraid I'm going to be attacked. I walk the streets, I look right and left. I see somebody following me, I run this way. But then guide them. Well, why do you feel that way? Well, how can you feel safer? What might you do? How would you express it? And then step three is empower. So the soapbox people, they do have a format. One, you state your passion and why you're concerned. Two, you give two or three details or research supporting. Well, the truth is, it is more dangerous on the streets of New York than what it was when, let's say, I was growing up and you could ride around a bicycle for 4 or 5 hours and only have to go home. It is. So you look up statistics, you provide details. And three is an empowerment. Take action. Tell your audience what you want them to do. Well, we need more guards on the street. The school guard has to go out beyond the corner of the street. There should be school guards or safety or police on the 3 to 7 block walk to school. Take action. Every kid should walk with a friend. You really shouldn't walk alone. Try and walk. So three steps, and this follows that transformational. Whenever they come across with headlines, Mark, as you know, or these big theories float from a conference or from the superintendent's office, or you arrive at school and here's today we're becoming a transformational change. Everybody's going to be doing this. Today we're doing this, and every teacher's, but they give you three principles: nurture it, guide it, which it just showed you how to do, and then empower. And the soapbox speech, which could be done in literature. And you're reading a story. What are the themes of the author? You don't have to agree. Let's say the author's theme is you have to decide what your culture is and you have to stick up for your rights no matter what your parents want you to do. Or you have to protest if your parent is being deported, etc. Or the author's theme is it's good to be odd and you feel no, it's better to be normal and try and fit in. You can soapbox it, you can debate it. And this, by the way, in terms of technology, doesn't have to just be writing. Or you're a shy kid and you don't want to record or video it. Well, you can record it on your cell phone, or the teacher can record it for you. You can listen, it can be played without you speaking it. So there are different ways to do it, but then you have agency, you have a project, you have a product, or you can make a picture or a poster or a box of your theme, which is another video. So you are nurtured, you are guided, and you are empowered to take action. Of course, ironically, teachers may not be doing that project themselves as part of their PD, but it's the same thing. Nurture it yourself. See one or two signature projects you want to put in, guide yourself within the guidelines to justify it with some details, and then empower yourself by presenting it to the principal and have agency. You've done something, you've transformed. And so I think, when I saw this, of course, philosophically, as you can see from the title, transformation, joy, something wonderful, imagination. We agree with it, but it's not that hard to implement. And this whole project costs nothing. You can see in the picture that was an actual, wasn't a soapbox crate, but was an actual heavy cardboard box that could hold the kid weighing
You know,
99
the
pounds.
kid standing,
And we painted it.
the kid standing there with the pictures of the kids
And we
sneakers
painted it.
on.
And by the way, were very empowered and they were very excited. And as they walked off, we applauded them because they had taken agency. They stood up in the United
Okay,
States, can stand up and speak.
in wrapping this segment up, I just wanted to ask you, so paint a picture. So you're in an inner city school in Brooklyn, rather crowded. How many kids participated in this? Many,
The whole
the
school,
whole school. And
the superintendent, our superintendent, happens to be a former literacy coach, just so you know, Mark,
uh,
and a former principal. And he likes this.
wow.
He allowed the whole school to participate. And in our school, every class did this. And I do want to mention because it takes to the theme of transform. So you would say, well, yeah, the social studies teachers prepared the kids. No, as it happened, initially the social studies kids gave the assignment, but the ELA teachers started helping the kids. Some teachers came to watch the preparation for it who are ESL and special ed. Every special ed kid class had a representative doing this
Okay.
too. There were kids who had never dared to speak even in class.
What I
You
really
lost
liked
that.
about it
Shall
was
we go
you,
forward?
yeah, just hold on. I want to make one last point on this because yeah, I've listened and wrapped my head around your this activity that you did with that whole middle school, a very large middle school, by the way. You had kids doing this in class, you had kids doing this online, you had kids doing this in a large auditorium assembly. And so we're not going to talk about this today. We
And
don't have
they
time.
came holding up signs. The kids who didn't speak held up signs of the themes, like at a political rally. They did that. They made signs. And so it was really a model. It should have, unfortunately, our society at large isn't doing
But you've established in that school
well.
something that's becoming rare, which is educators, teachers, their supervisors talk about a school having a culture of learning, but that's just a hollow phrase in so many places. In your school, Ditmas Middle School in Brooklyn, there's a rich, vibrant culture of learning, and one of the spokes in that wheel is is these school-wide or grade-wide projects that cut across classes. There's this esprit, what am I trying to say? Esprit de corps there, which is rare now because it's based on what are we learning together. We'll leave it at that. How are we doing on time? Because I don't, you told me you had to get onto another conversation. Are we good for 10 minutes?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I want to mention this is part of transformation. Take action, teachers, and work as a community. It isn't hard. No, no, I don't mean, oh, your principal says, and you must work with
Rose,
this teacher as a
that
partner.
that means nothing to a lot of people unless and that's what we're here for. Give them the framework to follow, give them the activity to do. So I want to shift our focus. Yes, of course, I agree they should work together as a community, but they're not going to see how to do that unless they jump in both feet into one of these community-based projects. Then they'll get it. Agreed? Reluctantly? Okay. Here's anyone who's been listening to this who wants some of the detail. Here's another video we produced together on Digital Soapbox. In a sense, this is such a natural thing to do. You're asking kids, what's your opinion about the world you live in? Um, okay, so yeah. And one more
Yeah,
thing,
I'm here.
the notes got cut off, but if you go to my channel, which is Mark Gura on YouTube, you'll find this. And this is another video on free online program. So again, I was saying we can talk to people and tell them what we think they ought to do and what will make a difference. But for my money, having developed a lot of teachers over the years, a lot of them will get it by inference through participation. So where are they going to find where are they going to find a project to do? Go to our video, which is replete with them. It's called Free Online Programs. And Narrows are some of the organizations, and we give the links to all of this. Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots. Um, uh, we give what is it? Scholastic, Penguin, all of these organizations hand off good to go activities, which are easily uh, done and just follow what they provide free online, and they easily become community efforts. Okay, um, we're going a little long, so I'm gonna
Very, they give small classroom grants, and there's nothing feeling as wonderful to a teacher than to have, and then they publish the project that you did with your classroom, Roots and Shoots, the girls who code, they publish that project online. So you know you've taken agency and you are developing, you are published, you are recognized not only at your school, but recognized, and there's a community, a national community of staying here and doing the project and getting recognized. And the kids are part of that. The kids are very excited to see them, and so is the principal and superintendent. And you have money acknowledging, I mean, not in our case.
you know,
I like to fund my own things. I've had a problem with that, but you are acknowledged.
who gets when you say grant, I get nervous because what it conjures up for me is, oh, well, I'm going to apply for this. I'm going to be one of 1,000 teachers asking. They're going to give out two grants.
No, that's the thing. Jane Goodall, most of these grants are almost automatic. Whatever you would do, it's less than a lesson
It's not
plan.
a,
Believe me. I've
not competitive.
anyone who fills it out.
And even if you didn't get the grant, you could do the project. You really don't need any materials other than what you've got already. But that's just a sweetener. Okay. I just I'm gonna say that considering time, we're not gonna look at this new framework today. The next time you and I have a conversation will be all about that ISTE ASCD framework of 8 principles of transformation for instruction in schools. We'll do that next time.
Okay, but the three that I mentioned, nurture, guide, and
Well,
empower, those are the three central
those
ones.
are the 3 areas. And yeah, of course, we agree with that. One of the things that's not,
And the project that we showed, that soapbox project, does it all and does it for nothing. So, what I would say is to you as a teacher, as you do your projects, just because something is issued from on high as the dictum, this is our new approach, doesn't mean that you might not have been doing it or doing portions of it. You just have to fit and see how what you're doing fits. Nurture. Do you do a pre-survey with your kids? Do you immediately do the premise and bring the kids in and ask about their experiences before you start? That's nurturing. Guiding. Well, of course, you don't just let them keep talking. You guide them toward a project, toward a product, toward a purpose, toward a goal. So you're guiding, empower. That's the key one. I think that that's what's so important in transformation. You empower them to do something. It doesn't mean that they've got to go out on the street and build a new building or a playground across the street. Empower could be they record something, it goes online and it gets shared. Empower could be you photograph them doing something and put the photographs up in the hallway and it's on a display and it's on their website. Empower could be I create a product and a writing and I, the kid, have my stake in this and I'm there. So those are the three principles. Let's not remember, if we distance it too much, that we've got a whole issue to read and 8 articles and 27 this, and we have to reference this guy, then we're not going to do it. In the classroom, what can I take in September when I see my new class? Or maybe some of us are seeing our class in August. What can I take? How can I transform, inform, empower myself and my kids, draw us in together and transform happily with imagination, with joy, uh, what I'm doing? And even it doesn't also mean, I do think it's a little bit of hyperbole to say every single moment, every day, everything's going to be amazing. I didn't say it before. No, I honestly, I don't think every single moment of
We
every
never
day
we never
is going to
said
be
that.
amazing. But let's say we get one amazing. Well, someone at the conference there said that everything. It's not exactly everything. If you
Well,
can get these moments and work towards something,
sure,
that's
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, of course. What we want is little Johnny gets up out of bed, gets his bowl of cereal and grabs his book bag and heads to school.
Little
And
Johnny
all
doesn't
we
get
want
out of bed here in a
is
Title One
Jay.
neighborhood. Little Johnny has to go to a school cafeteria to get breakfast.
Okay. My, my, the point I was trying to make is that as he's going to school, yes, he knows much of the day is going to be, attendance and line up and, you know, let me see if you memorize that. He understands all that, but that there's something somewhere, for half an hour, for an hour, he's going to do something wonderful. That makes all the difference in the world. So, the 3 areas, I just want to weigh on it ever so briefly, because as I look at what's in my inbox, so much discussion now about how kids go to school, but they don't feel like they're part of a community. They feel disassociate that they're just a, they're just another number, and they don't feel part of anything that feels right to them. So yes, of course, nurturing and guidance. Yeah, well, now we're asking them to do more than just memorize stuff and give us back the times tables and simple skills routines for how to plug information in. We're asking them to think. We're asking them to solve problem. We're asking them to create. This is 21st century learning. So of course we've got to guide them in that. And what's the last? The last one is empowerment. And yeah, kids don't want to feel that no matter how interesting school may be, that there's no point in it. They want to feel that they're participating in life, they're participating in the world, and that they're getting that from school, empowered. Okay, so I'm calling this the educational positivity zone, where these wonderful activities live. I don't know if you ever heard of it. I'm just going to give this as our final example. I've been eyeing this up for years now, Rose. This is, I don't know if you do this at middle school, or maybe this is one you want to take on. This is a middle school, again, mass project across, countries, states. Um, it's deep STEM. It involves, and it's relevant. This is the kind of thing kids would get up on a soapbox to talk about. How would you design a city that's really works for people? It's a good place to live. And let me just read this for a minute. Future City is a project-based learning program where middle school students, grades 6 to 8, design and build cities of the future, focusing on solving the real-world sustainability challenges. Students use the engineering design process and project management skills, so much there, to imagine, research, design, and construct their cities. The program culminates in a competition where teams present their city models, essays, and project plans. Future City competition is an international engineering competition, focuses on improving students' math, engineering, and science skills. My inference is what we're looking at here is a group of kids, middle school kids, presenting their model city, their bundle of solutions for how we can live healthfully, comfortably, sustainably, a high quality life. They're presenting their plan that they've been working on probably for months and months to a panel of judges who are giving them feedback. Um, to me, this is very much the kind of thing that will make a difference. No, as an individual teacher, you don't have to plan and design this. That's beyond you. There are many of these opportunities up and running. All you have to do is throw your hat in the ring, dip your toe in the water, so to speak. I think that's kind of a good place for us to leave it, this conversation, Rose, but you can have the last word.
Okay, so I want to say that the common thread through this, so here we're ending with the future city competition, is those kids and the teachers are coming together as community. They are creating joyously. They are inquiring. They're doing something amazing. They feel amazing, but they're also sharing it in a broader community. They have agency, they have purpose, they are transforming the traditional education, transformational change, and they're doing it together. They're coalescing, they're not quitting, they're joining, they're creating. It's coming, and this is all obviously coming from the school, from the children, not from above, but from the community. So we invite you to continue in your as you design your next year's classroom to transform, to change, to take charge, to take agency, and to bring joy.
Um, I said you could have the last word. You've got it. I can't add anything to that beyond thanks for joining me again. It's always a spirited conversation. All right. I'm gonna stop this recording now and